So our client needed help. Well, nothing new there. If it was easy, they wouldn't come to BBD. So a little bit of background. This is a financial services client who had many strategic objectives when they approached us first. But the main one was they wanted a scalable system that would allow them to double or even triple their existing products, but with no impact on operating costs. But they were struggling with the roadmap, with the tools, with the knowledge, and the budget to make it happen. And the gap between where they were and where they wanted to be was huge, because they had been focused on their core business for a very long time. In fact, they had been struggling on filling the gaps in their systems and processes with spreadsheets and manual processes. So actually increasing their operating costs, but not increasing sales. And their systems had not been modernized in over 20 years. So lots of room for improvement there. They also had minimal experience of project work, either running a project or being part of a project. So BAU was really all they knew. So we got involved and they put their trust in us. How we helped them, the issues we encountered, and where we found the answers to achieve ultimately a positive outcome, that is our story. So it'd be really easy to stand here and describe to you all that we've achieved, examples of all our successes, and talk to you about our very happy client. But we want to tell you about the journey and how we managed to build success from small failures. We want to tell you about the highly experienced and high-performing project team, some in the room here, who still experience difficulties and challenges, both on the tech and the people side. Our story is very much how we were able to leverage our accelerators and frameworks when we came up against problems, and how we were able to reach out to that community and the extensive knowledge base across BBD as a whole, because that is what is useful, knowing where you can find solutions to your problems. If we can learn from each other, then any challenges faced form part of those teachable moments that make you bond and grow as a wider team. And if we can improve that adaptive thinking, or that ability to recognize an unexpected situation, quickly review the various possible outcomes, and then decide on the best way forward, well, that enables us to speed up delivery for our clients.
And good morning to you and Hennie and everybody joining with you from London. And good afternoon to everybody joining from the Netherlands, Portugal, India, and last but not least, everybody here with me joining from South Africa. If I had to greet every BBD employee in their mother tongue, it would be quite a list. And I'll probably receive some criticism for my pronunciation. So, what you can see on the screen is the Foreshore Freeway Bridge that can be found in the city of Cape Town. You can also see that it was never completed, and that quite a bit of bridge was built that leads up to the abrupt end. 7 years of construction when the plug was pulled due to budget constraints. So I'm sure you would think, how can this happen? And how much money was wasted? But sadly, this is not an uncommon occurrence. But guess what? Us in the software development industry are lucky. We have agile. But unfortunately, that also doesn't mean it doesn't happen in our industry. You don't find super troopers like BBD around every corner. Before I share our project journey, I'd like to share a few interesting facts about the team. We are one team. I'm sure all of you know that teamwork makes the dream work. Most of us, however, have more experience working together in one office with our colleagues, grabbing a coffee to solve or to discuss a problem, rolling your chair over to your neighbor to assist with something, or maybe even shouting across the office at a colleague who committed code that broke the build. And of course, those late night releases where a new bug is picked up and one person controls the keyboard with the rest of the team watching over his shoulder, combining their intelligence to figure it out. None of these things are possible with colleagues in different countries. Working as one team is important, and certainly has new, exciting challenges as we continue our endeavor to expand BBD's footprint globally. This team consists of 24 people that's employed by 2 companies. The client fills the roles of project sponsor, product owner, business analyst, various subject matter experts, and also contributes software engineers to the core development team. BBD fills the roles of project manager, tech lead, and of course, software engineers of various levels of experience. So while we have reporting responsibilities to the client on project progress, some of the client employees also have reporting responsibilities to the BBD tech lead. This adds complexity and requires careful navigation. 3 generations make up the team, with the most belonging to Gen X, then Millennials, and then Gen Zs. In my opinion, it's highly beneficial to have input from each of these generations. Embracing this diversity and really getting to know your people paves the way to success. The team can be found across 4 time zones, with 4.5 hours of overlap during normal working hours of each of these time zones. The team is located across 5 countries: the UK, South Africa, Portugal, the Netherlands, and India. Each of these countries have their own set of public holidays and school terms, which needs thoughtful planning, especially around the peak holiday periods. There is benefit in this, as you don't have the case where the whole team wants to take 2 weeks leave over Christmas, leaving the solution with skeleton support over this period in South Africa. 7 nationalities means loads of diversity, requiring you to be aware of cultural differences and cultivating respect and appreciation of it on the team. The team speaks 9 first languages. At first, our client was skeptical to include non-English speaking people on the team. But after some convincing and sharing our successes in this regard, they decided to brave these uncharted waters and are reaping the benefits today. So let me take you on our project journey, first at a high level, and then calling out what didn't work and how we navigated and continue to navigate to deliver the best value to our client. No, we didn't arrive as a millionaire with a white helicopter, rescuing a reporter to a high apartment, dancing to a view of New York for a very rich, happily ever after. Instead, our very own Tony previously worked with the client's head of tech, and he suggested BBD. This was, however, after the plug was pulled with a previous company that did some process work for the client. So we started off with one of our accelerators, the BBD Health Check, to get to know the client's business and tech. From this, we identified a few quick wins and estimated that we could save the client 15% of their processing time. They happily agreed, and without writing a single line of code, we managed to save them 20%. At the same time, we suggested a POC that would leverage the power of Vanguard to show the client what BBD can really do for them. They agreed to this, and soon after, project negotiations started, where 2 milestones were agreed. 1, reduce employee processing time by 50%, and 2, replace the legacy system. The project kicked off last year around this time, and we have since delivered 6 features, with the first 3 features delivering almost 14%, or reducing the processing time by almost 14%, and the last few that has been delivered looking promising. Almost 42% of the legacy system has been replaced. So this is definitely worth celebrating. So the project kicked off, and as you can think, some serious requirements elicitation started. But the response wasn't quite as expected. The client is running a stunning business, and they are really good at what they do, really good at BAU. They have never done project work. So we had to establish project norms and make sure the project gets the priority it requires. We had to highlight the importance of project structure and flow, roles and responsibilities, and project governance. But from our years of experience, we know what is required to make a project a success, so we could share that with the client. The project was run as our very favorite methodology, Agile, and the client really value their members, so they want to provide them with the best service. So of course, their focus was on providing for a really great user experience. However, a few months into the project, they realized if they maintain their focus on user experience, they will surpass their budget. So we had to put our heads together with the client during a refocus to figure out how the project can stay within budget and achieve their goals, which was eliminate a key man risk, provide for process optimization, and replace the legacy system. This was very disruptive to the project and required a few very difficult conversations. So we are doing Agile in principle with forecasts and estimates that continue to be seen as set in stone. Just imagine if we could hold the weatherman to his forecasts. Never would you need a jacket or an umbrella just for in case. But now we are back on track with features that are prioritized and have planned completion dates. We have a focused and high-performing team. And while there has been minor slips, the overall project is on track to deliver, to stay in scope, to stay in budget and deliver on time. So normally, the brain power when a project is started is getting the tech right. But that was the easy part with this project. The hard part was building the trust and continuing to keep it while coaching the client in what we need to be successful. But of course, the tech didn't come without its difficulties. But for that, I'll hand over to Hennie.
27 May 2022. That date might seem insignificant to you. And no, it's not because it was the date that ABBA performed in London for the first time in 40 years. Albeit as digital avatars on themselves, without many knowing and still feeling like a real live performance. It was the day that our first policy went live with no human intervention. This was bridging the gap from a manual way of working to a modern workflow-driven system. We achieved something great. We made a big difference in this client's life. We have automated a manual process that used to take a user 10 minutes down to a couple of seconds. You might be thinking to yourself, how did they achieve that in just 8 months from writing their first line of code? We did it by leveraging the acceleration power of Vanguard. And no, I'm not talking about the car guard that only watches vans. Enough about the bad dad jokes, and back to Vanguard. The chances are you might have heard about it. You might have seen a presentation on it, or even better, you might have worked on a project where it was used. Today, I'm going to tell you how Vanguard helped us to bridge the gap at this client. What is Vanguard and what does it do? The answer to that question is relatively simple, and one you might have heard before. The harder question is, what does it not do? And how difficult is it to implement at a new client? Knowing me, knowing you, we're hoping for click once install, and unfortunately it's not an out-of-the-box solution, and it does nothing on its own. The learning curve to understand how to design and implement your first workflow is quite steep. It takes time to onboard any new developer before they can start delivering code. Making core functionality changes is extremely challenging and requires time spent with a core Vanguard developer. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to implement Vanguard without a subject matter expert on your team. Initially, Vanguard did not support an open source database, and it was primarily geared to run in Docker. Vanguard documentation was adequate for the important components, and ATC tells me they are still working on the training material. No one in our team fully understood the ecosystem and how it all fits together. And there is no dedicated team in BBD that supports Vanguard. Instead, it uses a model that is based on crowdsourcing, where all teams using Vanguard contribute back to the base code. This adds more pressure on the team for balancing project targets while maintaining the Vanguard base code. And one cannot simply throw the problem over the fence in hope that someone else would fix it. It took the team a while to understand how it all fits together, and having the POC code as reference helped a lot. As with any good POC, there was some intentional technical debt occurred to make it all work seamlessly in the tight deadlines. This left the team with some pitfalls to navigate through. The other disadvantage of the POC was that it was running in a containerized Docker environment. Budget constraints meant we had to retrofit it to run in Azure App Services that utilized Azure Web Apps. The team had to upskill in Azure cloud infrastructure with an extra emphasis on security. The client is obsessed with security. Vanguard security has been vetted by major banks and government organizations alike, and has always been given the green light. This client, however, had some concerns that had to be addressed before it was accepted by them. This added more unplanned effort from the team. It also hampered our deployment, our ability to deploy out-of-the-box CI/CD solutions offered by Azure. These were just some of the teething issues, and it felt at the time Vanguard was not polished enough for production. At this point, you might be asking yourself, is it even worth implementing Vanguard with all the problems we faced? I think if that statement was true, we would not be standing here today. We are BBD. This is the way. We never let the client down, and we do whatever it takes to make it work. We add value to the client by delivering awesome quality software solutions. So, with a small 4-man dev team, we started developing in October 2021. The first month was largely spent on getting the infrastructure in place. Our recommendation was to use Azure container instances, but this was too costly to the client, and we settled on using Azure App Services. This is where the power of Vanguard took center stage, and it proved why it is called an accelerator. We delivered our first feature into UAT by the end of December. This is just 3 months from starting. The feature consisted of 2 workflows, a member and client portal, which was running in parallel with the client's current system using the same underlying data. It was released into production at the beginning of February, 4 months from writing our first line of code. Not many software companies can leverage off more than 38 years of knowledge and experience built into a workable package. Vanguard gives your team the building blocks to deliver complex workflows with multiple integration points in a short space of time. The first building block is the workflow engine. Adapted and improved from the first prototype and reused by other clients means we had an extremely robust and durable engine. In Accelerator, that is tech and business agnostic. Just having a tried and tested workflow engine means we immediately have a minimum level of quality baked into any solution we deliver to the client. The engine is capable of handling small business to enterprise customer workloads with ease. Furthermore, the process of designing workflows aligns technical and business requirements, making sure that everybody is on the same page, while essentially representing the day-to-day business operations of the client. Case management forms the second building block. It allows a user or team leads the ability to visualize workloads and claim work items from a work pool via Angular frontend. This includes viewing of any attachments and forms a centralized and transparent view of all relevant day-to-day operations. Team leads can perform tasks like reassigning work items, approving or declining out of the ordinary cases, or routing exceptions to the correct user or team for further investigation. The content store is the third building block. It is a free document store and correspondence service that can work on a range of database servers. Documents can be associated to work items for viewing and auditing purposes, and correspondence can be sent via multiple channels. It uses templating to generate emails, letters, or even text messages with a minimal effort from the developer. It even encrypts your PDFs attachments before sending them over insecure channel, essentially allowing for an extra layer of security. The architecture of Vanguard allowed us to easily split work between developers and breaking dependencies. Now that the foundation is done, we are developing 2 products in parallel with ease. Vanguard is not fussy about the services used for the business logic and data layer. It allowed the team to integrate into any API, no matter the underlying technology. Where possible, we reused the client's existing Java application. The business logic had to be extracted from the existing 2-tier application. The team also reverse engineered the code to write a set of domain-specific REST APIs that was written in Spring Boot alongside JPortal to integrate into the client's current Postgres database. This approach suits the client, as their in-house developers were all Java-based. This enabled the team to work alongside the BBD developers to implement the business logic and data layer. We are upskilling their developers to be full stack to give them the capability to take over the system once the project is done. I told you earlier that there is no dedicated team in BBD that supports Vanguard. Instead, we have something better. We have a passionate group of people that will go above and beyond to help where they can while still doing their day jobs. From this exceptional group of people, the Postgres port was done, and the first open source database was added to Vanguard. Our own team have contributed back into the base code, thus improving it for future and existing teams. To date, Vanguard has successfully orchestrated more than 900 policies from application to live, with a financial value of £15 million. That's roughly about 300 million rand. We currently have 3 products live in production and will soon be rolling out 4 more in the next month. In just over a year, we have enabled this client to automate and modernize 7 of their 10 products, saving them 320 man-hours per month for process optimization. I would call that a resounding success. All of this would not have been possible without using BBD accelerators, especially Vanguard, to our advantage. My brother likes calling developers like me beanbags because he thinks we sit around all day doing nothing, looking at computer screen. It is, in reality, just the opposite. We solve complex problems, collaborating from anywhere in the world while making our clients happy, while perhaps sitting in a beanbag. This story has a happy ending after all the potholes and speed bumps. We made Vanguard a better product for the next team to implement. Every time Vanguard is rolled out to a new team, it becomes better and more versatile and easier to implement. And who knows, one day it might be a click once install.